Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you are all having a great day. To start things off in another This Is All Coordinated news, hackers have stolen cryptocurrencies worth $30 million from South Korea's leading virtual cryptocurrency exchange known as BitThumb. Cointelegraph Japan reported yesterday. As a result, all deposits and payments have been temporarily suspended. I'm not going to read what they tweeted out. It pretty much says the exact same thing. The exchange states that it will compensate users affected by the hack and that all assets are being moved to a cold wallet. They say notice for suspension of all deposits and withdrawal service. We've checked that some of the cryptocurrencies valued about $30 million was stolen. Those stolen cryptocurrencies will be covered from BitThumb and all of assets are being transferred to cold wallet. BitThumb moved a large amount of Ethereum to its cold wallet when they recently noticed abnormal access. On June 16th, BitThumb announced an abrupt server check in order to maximize security settings. The maintenance was planned from 5:20 in the morning to 9 in the morning, but exceeded the scheduled time. According to Korean resident officials from the Sentinel Protocol, a project specializing in hacking, scam, and fraud detection, the hot wallet was hacked on the 9th of June 19th, and some of the stolen coins include Ripple. What I think is going on now, tell me if I'm wrong. Over the last, it has to be around 3 months now, we've had a hack of a crypto exchange just about every 3 to 5 days. If you look back, it's literally been 3 to 5 days. But these hacks tend to happen, like I said, tell me if I'm wrong, whenever the market is going up. And I said before in other videos, I don't know how many people believed me or really care to believe me, because I know I can say some stuff that can be kind of out there sometimes. I said before that I assume that within a year, the crypto exchanges that we have now and the places that we deal in cryptocurrencies, where we buy our cryptocurrencies, where we store our cryptocurrencies, won't be around anymore because of these new players who are trying to get into the game, whether it be Bloomberg, whether it be Forbes, whether it be NASDAQ creating their own crypto exchange, whether it be Coinbase and Coinbase Pro. I feel like every single time the market is going up, we have some type of news that there was a hack. I'm sure you can all remember this because I've been talking about hacks for at least the last 3 to 4 months, but they only seem to happen when there's like a slight recovery in the market. This is why I think, you never really know, but it seems coordinated. There's no way that every single time Bitcoin or every other coin sees anywhere from 3 to 7% gain, and we have some, relatively okay news in the market, that there just happens to be another hack. There was this hack. There was a hack on the other, what was it? Like the 19th largest exchange or something like that. And then before that, it was like the 45th. It feels like people are just trying to hack whenever prices go up. And this, in the long run, if you have hacks that have been happening at least once or maybe twice a week across the entire globe, you then have something to look back onto when you created your own specialized exchange that has a name like NASDAQ that people are used to. And you say, well, we've created something because there have been a number of hacks in the news over the last couple of months. This is not safe for people. You all saw that the market was recovering to a certain extent. There were a lot of bullish, articles out there, people talking about we needed to hit this number and then things would be okay, and then we have another hack again. Pay attention the next 6, 12, 18 months, somewhere in this time frame, if you start to hear from these other major exchanges who are going to be opening, if they start talking about or purposely say, yeah, ours is a lot safer because of the hacks, then it'll be all but confirmed. These are happening way too often. We never had them happening this quickly before. Like, I could understand if we were in a crazy bull market and prices were going absolutely insane. Hacks will happen. People want money. There are a lot of people who don't have money, and if they find a way to get money, they're going to do what they need to do. But when the market is going sideways, it seems a bit coordinated. That's just the way that I feel about it. When I woke up and saw this, I was like, it's way too much. It seems relatively focused on certain aspects of the cryptocurrency space. At least this is how I feel about it. Next up, Portuguese software engineer João Almeida has created a Pokitoshi, a platform that allows users to play Nintendo's popular Pokemon game on the Lightning Network. The Next Web reports they reported this yesterday. I'm not going to read the tweet. Lightning Network is a second layer solution to Bitcoin scalability limitations, opening payment channels between users that keep the majority of transactions off-chain, turning it to the underlying blockchain only to record the net results. Almeida's Pokitoshi uses Lightning Network together with the live streaming video platform Twitch, which allows users to interact with the game via an online chat room, as in the existing Twitch Plays Pokemon series. Pokitoshi implements a Lightning Network-enabled virtual controller for users to enter their gaming commands, charging them 10 Satoshi per command, 1 Satoshi being equal to 100 millionth of a single Bitcoin. Payments are made through OpenNode, a Lightning-enabled Bitcoin payment processor. The game is therefore a playful way to test the Lightning Network's protocol ambition to facilitate off-chain instant Bitcoin payments at high volume. I know a lot of you probably don't play Pokemon, but one of my main beliefs is that what will bring cryptocurrencies into the mainstream has to do with video games. The idea is that an app or video game will come out that will launch cryptocurrency into stardom, and this is kind of what happened with CryptoKitties. It's fairly obvious that, when cryptocurrencies does become mainstream, it's going to be through an app that we use on our phones, something that we can play, or something that millions of people around the world have on them at any given time. But the fact that this was built on the Lightning Network was actually kind of cool. I'm actually going to be talking about the Lightning Network in a couple of minutes, so hang tight because it might get a little intense. Next up, Bitcoin's volatility is now at its lowest level in more than a year, signaling a likely bottom. Futures broker Bill Baruch said in an analysis for CNBC on Monday. The Blue Line Futures president noted that after the leading cryptocurrency lost as much as 70% in value since its peak in December of 2017, Bitcoin's decreased volatility is a signal that sell has become exhausted. He said, "A bottom is a process, not a price. Now that Bitcoin's price and volatility are back down to earth, this bottoming process can begin." Baruch attributed Bitcoin soaring value in December to the launch of the Bitcoin futures contracts on CME and CBOE, with tremendous speculation and the fear of missing out, causing prices in the cryptocurrency sector to skyrocket too quickly. The subsequent sellout has now wiped out most, if not all, of the over-enthusiasm, he suggested, saying that in the near term, a bottom would occur more quickly and more constructively if Bitcoin's recent low of $6,000 holds. Baruch qualified his analysis, however, by noting that Bitcoin's 100-week moving average is now down to 4,550. The broker considered that Bitcoin's 6-month downtrend will remain intact until they close above $11,000, with a near-term downtrend holding if the cryptocurrency closes above $8,500. In the long term, Baruch maintained significant upside, and they signaled $10,000 as is a crucial line in the sand, going so far as to advise selling against it. $10,000 is the main number, and I think along with the first story over here, that we've been actually very close to hitting it a number of times before. Even I think in April we were very close to hitting 10,000, and the whales were like, nope, we're going to push it down even further. So the relative news is that multiple analysts, the larger higher ups, the people in the castles, are all claiming now that Bitcoin is definitely signaling a buy because the price has it's not going down from the levels where it is now. If it does happen to break down lower, that's just how life is. But everyone is saying that they expect it to move quicker relatively soon. This is why I think we also had news every single day of the last week. All these people saying that they think that a breakout is imminent because the price is signaling for people to buy it. I guess a lot of people just aren't looking at this signal. Anyway, eToro is in the news once again. eToro is going to set up a new over-the-counter cryptocurrency trading desk in London. According to eToro, the most interest for this feature was coming from hedge fund owners. eToro is a social trading platform that allows customers to copy trading behaviors of other customers. It offers to trade in foreign currencies, stocks, and cryptocurrencies. CEO Yoni Azia is quoted as saying, "We've actually set up our own corporate team here in the UK to start setting up accounts to trade on eToro. We've announced that we're launching the exchange as well. Between the exchange and the over-the-counter desk, we're also starting to serve more potential institutions and financial institutions. Over-the-counter transactions allow investors to buy tokens without the amount of transparency and regulation that trades at exchanges are subject to." The CEO also said that there is definitely something we definitely see out there as public market players and big banks are interested in the cryptocurrency space. He said, "I think there's growing institutional demand and interest of public investors to understand whether they can join the party. That is something we definitely see out there. We see more and more public market players and big banks who are interested in this space and feel left out because they're not allowed to invest in cryptos or ICOs." They've been in the news a lot lately, eToro. I know a lot of people probably don't care for them, but I think I'm pretty sure they're relatively like extremely popular platform. And this is yet another institution or company or whatever you want to call them that has added some type of gateway or opening or doorway for heavy-handed investors in the market. We've been hearing, I said this before, if the market doesn't go anywhere this year, I'll be completely shocked because all of these institutions seem completely convinced that this is the year that all the big money is supposed to flow into the market. I know you've heard me say that 38,000 times before in just about every other video, but you know it's true. We've constantly had news like this that everyone seems to be gearing up for specific people to get into the market. Whether they're already here, hello, welcome to the crypto world, but it seems like they're still waiting for something. You know, we would have seen a major push in the market already. At least I think so. So this is kind of interesting. The reckoning will come in two waves. There's a big shape-up happening in the ICO market, and it should be keeping investors up at night. This was said by the CBOE president and COO, Chris Concannon. Concannon, also CEO of BATS Global Markets, told Business Insider that the market for ICOs is about to undergo major regulatory changes, leading to the SEC classifying ICO tokens as securities and then pursuing industry participants and seeking litigation. Coming from a Wall Street trader, the pronouncement could often be dismissed as FUD, but Concannon has long been one of Wall Street's most prominent cryptocurrency advocates, with CBOE launching Bitcoin futures trading last year. Concannon believes that the SEC will first pursue ICO market participants individually and then issue class action lawsuits against the ICO team and projects themselves. While U.S. officials have been repeatedly criticized for their unclear stance on cryptocurrencies, that's an understatement, and ICOs, earlier this month, SEC Chief Jay Clayton cleared some things up by categorically stating that ICOs would not be given special regulatory treatment and that many of the ICOs on the market were indeed selling securities and that the SEC would take action to regulate them. Any ICO selling token that essentially represents a future share in the profits of the ICO project are to be classified as securities, and Concannon says the waves of regulation coming are not to be taken lightly. The SEC subpoenaed dozens of cryptocurrency firms this year, and if Concannon is correct, they are just getting started. Over $5 billion has already been raised through ICOs this year alone, with some estimates ranging above $7 billion US dollars. The SEC will now be deciding which of the projects which received funding and issued tokens were actually issuing unregistered securities, something that could land both the project teams and investors themselves in hot water, legally speaking. So, remember when I said before that I am pretty sure that I think at this point the US is going to be left behind. They're scaring off every single potential person or anything that could actually make waves in their country or could actually be good. You know, I see, Americans or something like that could not participate in ICOs. They could not buy them directly from the whatever, where they were selling them. And this is why a lot of them started launching from Europe, from Asia, and I think a couple from South America, if I'm not mistaken. So if they're, I think it's interesting that they will be trying to take legal action against companies and organizations who aren't even in their country, which I feel like shouldn't be illegal. I'm pretty sure a couple of ICOs have launched in the States, but I think they were made to make sure that they were actually SEC compliant. I don't know exactly how this is going to go down, but this is part of what I was saying. I felt like the market would collapse backwards, not from Bitcoin side, but from number 1600 onward. There are a lot of crazy ICOs out there, and I think, or my hope, or what I am assuming will happen is as these ICOs begin to be shut down or are targeted by the SEC, the money from these coins will simply flow into the, they're probably going to even go into the 1500 coins because people don't think that far. But eventually the fallback from the back of the market will eventually push more money into the top coins. And this could be the beginning of another push in the cryptocurrency market going upward. Because a large reason why, I really hate human greed, because if it wasn't for ICOs, none of this would have happened. Ethereum was an ICO. We've had a couple of other ICOs, sprinkled around through the entire time. But when people realized that they could create their own coins, push them into the market, make a couple $1 million, and then completely leave. This is why the governments have gotten into this. And if, we just had a nicer space where everyone just held hands and everybody was really nice, we would see a completely different market. But so many of these coins are completely fake. So many people are creating all of these projects that have completely collapsed. Like a lot of them were launching in January, not around at all anymore. And this is why I think everything is happening. But the point is, after all of this, that I assume the money from these ICOs, people, cashing out of them, afraid to hold on to them any longer, will eventually push into the front end of the coins. And I think that what the US could be doing could be irreparable to themselves in the long run, because if people see that it is a very not even unsure regulatory wise, but if lightning can strike you once, it can probably strike you again, even though it's unlikely. But in the case of ICOs, you don't, it's a lot easier just to go to Mexico or to Canada and create your ICO and not have someone try to strike you down with what you're doing. You guys know what I'm saying. So I have a feeling within the next couple of years, if the US doesn't get it together, this is at least how I feel, they may be completely left behind in the cryptocurrency space. Here we go. So the enigmatic and famous Cobra, who is the co-owner of Bitcoin.org and BitcoinTalk.org, again sparked controversy in the crypto community by publishing a series of tweets questioning the current situation of Bitcoin. According to Cobra, one of the main problems with the Bitcoin blockchain is the fact that it has such centralized mining power. According to his opinion, a coordinated strike by 3 mining pools would be enough to successfully carry out a 51% attack on the Bitcoin network. This is not FUD. This is just actual facts. We know that 3 mining pools control more than 51% of the power of Bitcoin. And this is one of my main issues with it. I like Bitcoin. I'm not in love with Bitcoin like I used to be. I used to think it was the greatest thing in the entire world. But this has to definitely change. And I'll tell you why in a couple of seconds. Cobra said Bitcoin simply can't be censorship resistant long term if the hashing power is controlled almost entirely by one entity. You can't build digital gold on something that can be shut down by one man and needs rapid, massive, coordinated response amongst everyone to counter. Cobra is one of the main characters warning of the possible dangers of maintaining the current design of Bitcoin's consensus algorithm. In February 2018, he had already made specific considerations in an open letter. For Cobra, the level of centralization and control over the Bitcoin network is essentially a monopoly, which it is. He mentioned Bitmain as the villain of the film, not only because of the mining power, but also because of the factors such as support for altcoin Bitcoin Cash or the possibility of being controlled by China. There were rumbles a couple of days ago, had to be about 2-3 days ago. I think it was one of the news things. I didn't put it into the video because there's already too much news. I can't keep making excessively long videos and bogging you guys down with all this stuff. I know, I give you guys the most important things, but what ended up happening was that there was another, instance where people were talking about that there could be another ban like a complete ban on cryptocurrencies in China, that they were essentially trying to how does it go? Figure out which coins they wanted in the country, something like that. There were rumors that they could be shutting down mining operations within the country because they felt they were unsafe. They were taking too much electricity. Whatever the excuse was, whatever China's excuse was, this is a major problem because we know that over 50%. I think one of these is actually American. I'm not sure which one. Is actually wait. Okay, so one of these is American. But 50% of the network is actually controlled completely by China. And if China one day says, as I've said before, China likes to control or have control over what they own. If they decide to say, we don't want Bitcoin in our country anymore, we don't want cryptocurrencies, we're okay with blockchain because we can control it, but we don't want this anymore, shut down every single mining operation, what then happens, sorry again, to the entire network? The entire network, let's say, with all this mining and hashing power that we had even last year, and we had an instance where I think Bitcoin was around, it was like 270,000 transactions backlogged. That it took, I told you guys in one video, it had to be sometime last year, obviously. I tried to send, I think, a tiny fraction of Bitcoin to another wallet. And it actually took, I think, like 15 days, not hours, not minutes, days for it to get to me. I don't know if the transaction fee was too low, which shouldn't even be an issue as well. You know, we shouldn't have to put $30 transaction fees to send money to someone else, whatever. But if they decide to shut down all mining pools or tell these mining pools to stop and unplug themselves, and we have another situation where the blockchain ends up getting backed up again, we could potentially then see 500,000 transactions backlogged in the Bitcoin blockchain that are going to have to be processed by, you know, this small fraction over here. This is why I was saying before in other videos, I think people laughed at me in the comment section. I was talking about it would be cool if we had phones or some other type of way to be able to mine Bitcoin ourselves. You know, if we, you know, even if it was just as simple as when we had our phone open and we're actually using it, something that, you know, was in the background, didn't take up too much electricity. So we could kind of separate this or make these at least a bit bigger. Because even the people who are in, there was news a couple of weeks ago that I also didn't tell you guys about. It didn't seem that important. There's a couple of billionaires in New York State who are going to be opening up mining operations in New York State, like near Niagara Falls, I think, so they can have the hydropower. I think some of them are doing it in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. And I think some of them are opening up in California. Don't quote me on that one. But it pretty much comes down to they're trying to, you know, create these massive mining operations as well for Bitcoin specifically, and I also believe Ethereum. But they're not going to come anywhere close to how large these are. So even, you know, putting billions of dollars into these operations still won't put a dent in what needs to be done, because it's a huge threat right now. We don't, China the same as the US. We don't have any clarification. This is, you know, you can't tell someone yes and no at the exact same time. I think they've banned, trading of Bitcoin in China. I know, like, they have a problem with exchanges, but for some reason miners are allowed. You know, you can't ban food and then not ban the people who are making it. Eventually, they're, you know, the fear is eventually going to say, okay, you know, we can't control this. You know, you have to kind of shut it down. So, not to read through everything that he said, but it is a major problem. A lot of people called me out on this. I'll never forget it. A couple of months ago when I was talking about how centralized Bitcoin was and everyone was metaphorically throwing stuff at me through the screen, whatever you want to call it. And I was saying, and we had the news a couple of weeks after that Ethereum was actually more decentralized than Bitcoin because of how this pie is. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to hate me for this as well. I spoke about this before a couple of months ago and a lot of people did not believe me. I don't think it's so much anymore about you needing to believe me as much as it is going to happen. You know, the sun comes up every morning. If you don't believe that, I'm sorry. But, you know, when you wake up this morning, the sun is definitely going to be there. There's a lot of news, and I'm pretty sure you're going to hear about this within the next year and a half. A lot of banks, a lot of large institutions have started buying Lightning nodes. Lightning nodes pretty much work that if you want to validate transactions on the Bitcoin network, you have to preload your Lightning node with Bitcoin in order to be able to process transactions through your node. And if you have one of the larger nodes, the only people who tend to be able to buy this or hold this or can have this in their possession are people who have billions of dollars. If I'm not mistaken, the Lightning nodes are being sold by Blockstream. You can even Google that, like Google Blockstream Lightning node banks for sale. It'll definitely come up. You're going to start hearing a lot of chatter, and I'm pretty sure you're probably going to hear from me and a couple of other people as well. There are banks now at major institutions who are buying Lightning nodes. The problem with the Lightning network is that it acts as an actual bank. So if you see transactions coming through your node that you do not want to process, you can say no to these transactions and they will get reversed and they will completely kind of fail as they're trying to pass through you. The issue is if normal people aren't creating their own Lightning nodes and banks are going to once again control the entire network, don't be fooled and think that banks and major institutions don't already own these mining pools. If you have that, and we have a situation where banks do start to get into Bitcoin, which they already are, and start to completely tumble into this market, and they're looking for another side income, they're going to start buying more Lightning nodes, and eventually it'll literally just become another banking system where you have to pass through a bank in order to get your money sent. And if the bank decides that they don't want to process your money, it gets sent right back. I don't know how this can be fixed. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that have been talking about pushing Bitcoin over to proof of stake. Problem with that is a lot of people who are Bitcoin maximalists, people who love Bitcoin, who think it's the greatest thing in the entire world, they refuse to admit that proof of work isn't perfect. This is why a lot of other coins have started moving over to proof of stake, because it's quicker and it's easier to be able to scale the network and do exactly what we need to do to push the transactions through. But when it comes down to Bitcoin specifically, when it comes to proof of work, the argument is that Bitcoin has a large amount of its value because it's being created through electrical devices. The more electrical output that there is, the more energy that they take up, the more value that Bitcoin has, because it was created, it was forged, if you will, through the use of this massive amount of electricity. That's what I was saying before. By current estimates right now, they say that by 2030, the cost of creating one Bitcoin could exceed around $1 billion US. That is billion with a B. If we get to that point, it's going to be completely detrimental for the entire world. If you have entire companies and organizations and even normal people who are mining constantly every single day just to create one Bitcoin, I think at the moment, I want to say like 100. No, it has to be more than that. I don't know the exact amount of Bitcoin that are created per day, but we just passed 17 million created, and we already have a lot more than that. So it's only been a couple of weeks as well. So if you have billions of dollars worth of electricity every single hour, every single day that are creating this, it's going to eventually cause a problem, and this will only be controlled by the people who hold on to the power, who have the electricity. I don't think that Bitcoin will ever move to proof of stake. I could see some of the hard forks of Bitcoin moving to proof of stake. I don't know. This is just a major discussion that I didn't really plan on spending so much time on this specific topic. But like I said, always do your own research. Just read. The information is out there. Like, none of it is hidden. This is the internet. Like, you can Google things in 3.5 seconds and the information is right there. You're going to start hearing information about large institutions. I'm more than certain that Coinbase also owns some Lightning nodes as well. Without a doubt. Banks also own them. Large institutions are also owning them. There are normal people who do own Lightning nodes. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely normal people. There are normal people who have their own Bitcoin mining rig. I've seen documentaries. These people have, 4 or 5 cards and stuff like that. There are, definitely normal miners. But when it comes down to the power, don't assume that people or rich people who are getting into the cryptocurrency game are just buying Bitcoin, putting it onto a flash drive, and then twiddling their thumbs, waiting for returns. They're looking for other ways to make money. Like I said, Google, Blockstream, Lightning Network, banks, buying banks, or whatever, whatever combination of you kind of want to put it inside. But this is definitely happening. If this isn't resolved soon, Bitcoin is already controlled, but it's going to be controlled even more by the people at the very, very top. I don't know how you feel about that. It's a bit uncomfortable, especially when the entire idea behind Bitcoin was so that we could all mine, we could all control it, we would all be in control of the network equally together. I don't see any quick remedy for this, but this is going to be major news for quite some time. Alrighty, everyone. That is definitely going to do it for this video. Please always do your own research. Just take 5 minutes to read about what's going on out there. Your money is invested into this, so you have to know where your money is and what your money is doing. Hope you guys have a great